Hey, everybody. Good to see you here. I'm BJ Muir, your heart based parenting coach, and welcome to Raw Parenting Unfiltered. Speaking of unfiltered, we're really trying some new things out here tonight. I'm going to be going live right here, like I do every week in YouTube, but I'm about to click on a button over here to see if I can get myself on TikTok and Facebook at the same time. So if you give me just a few seconds, I'm going to click a button here, and we'll see what I get. All right, can't do that one. But I need to change this thing here. Live Q and A. And change this to taking your questions. Got it. All right. Whoops. Got to spell it right. Here we go. All right. Hey there. It looks like I'm on TikTok there and I'm on YouTube here. It's great to have everybody here. I'm BJ Muir, your heart-based parenting coach. This is Raw Parenting Unfiltered. If you don't know, I come live every week on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope you make it appointment live streaming. I remember appointment TV, but appointment live streaming, and come here. This is the time, excuse me, where I have a bank of questions that I've been asked over the course of the week or a couple weeks, and I go through and I just start answering them. Hey there, Learning with Lynette. Good to see you here. Thanks for joining me. And thanks for the heart as well. And as you're here with me, whether it's on YouTube, TikTok, or wherever you are right now, or you might be watching me on replay, if you've got a question, drop it in the chat box. I'll see if I can get to it. Now, this is my first night doing two at once, so hopefully I'll see your question too. If for some reason, though, I don't see your question, or you're watching this on the replay, just go to the link in the description down below, and you will see that you can go right to a Google form where you just put in your question. Although I'm realizing right now that link is probably not on TikTok. So let me see if I can't just throw it in the comments here. Well, nope, not like that though. Let's see. Going to grab a link. Grabbing a link live. Here we go. Can you hear me doing that in the background? That's not good. Here we go. All right. That's what we want. So I want it right here. Oh, it's not wanting to glue. All right. Well, TikTok folks, just put it right there in the chat and I'll try to catch it. YouTube folks, you got a link for the replay. Anyway, here we go. I've got some questions already here. So question number 1, what can you do? What can I do when my child resists even the simplest requests like brushing teeth or putting on shoes? Thank you for that question. How many of you out there have had this problem where you've asked your kid to like brush their teeth, put on their shoes, could you put your stuff away, and you get kickback from them? This happens all the time. So let's talk about it. If you find yourself getting a lot of kickback from your kid anytime you ask them simple requests like putting on their shoes or putting some simple toys away or clearing their plate from the table, it's likely the problem in the way that you're approaching it and how you follow through. Let's talk about it. So the first thing that we can do is we can make a change in ourselves to help us make a change in our kids. When our kids give us kickback on doing simple tasks, like we ask them, hey, could you put your shoes away? Could you go take care of the dog or whatever it might be? It's often the fact that, first of all, we started with a question rather than an expectation. We want to have a statement when we're saying these things. If we're really asking a kid and it's okay for the kid to say no, then fine, let's ask them, hey, do you mind doing this? But if you're not expecting a no answer, if you're really expecting a kid to say, okay, mom, or okay, dad, and go do it, then we need to stop asking and start telling. We can do this respectfully. We can do this kindly, but we need to be honest with our words. When we're asking, a lot of times the reason we're asking is we're trying to be kind, we're trying not to be bossy, and that's really important in parenting. But in asking, we're sending a confusing message to our kids because we're giving them the option of no, but we don't expect them to take it. So I'm going to give you a simple phrase you can do. And actually, let me tell you one more thing. Before you give this simple phrase to your kid, I want you to make sure that you are actually in the same room as your kid, talking with your kid, and that you can see them. If you're yelling for them across the house, it's not going to be as effective because close proximity increases the felt value of your instructions. When you're closer, it increases the felt value of what you have to say. This is true for every human relationship in your life. When someone's in your presence telling you that you need to do something, you take that more seriously than a text message, an email, a phone call, or a shout from across the room. It just changes things. So let's start first by us getting close to our kids. That also allows us to see what our kid is doing. And if they're doing something we don't want to interrupt, we might hold off on our request. Or we might decide to interrupt that moment because we want our kid to practice being okay with interruption sometimes. But that's a parenting decision we're going to make there. And so by getting close, we're reducing bossiness because we're considering the relationship that we have with our kids. And at that moment, then instead of, here's the statement you're going to say, instead of saying, hey, honey, can you please? Because we expect them to do this. This is not a question we have. We're going to say this phrase, honey, or whatever the kid's name is, let's call him Samantha. Samantha, you need to, and fill in the blank with what you want them to do at that point. Samantha, you need to go put your shoes away in the closet and come back and see me. Samantha, you need to clear your dish from the table and into the dishwasher and come see me. Something as simple as that. I'm not yelling, I'm not barking, I'm not demanding. I'm simply saying what you need to do right now because I'm mom or I'm dad. I'm in charge right now. I came to notice what you're doing. I took that into consideration and I decided in this moment, this task you have to do is more important than what is going on right now in family life. And so then your kid should look at you and say something like, okay, mom, okay, dad. And they should go do it and come back and let you know it's done. So you can say something like, great job. Thanks for doing that. You start doing that and suddenly your kid doesn't resist as much. Oh, are you ready for a little bonus here too? I want you to do this for me. Don't go into the room, see your kid, and tell them what they have to do. Say just their name first. Samantha. And wait for Samantha to look at you. Because you see, if you say, Samantha, you need to go take the trash out, Samantha's busy playing her game, doing her thing, and you just gave her a choice. Take the trash out or keep playing my game. Well, I know which one I'm choosing. I don't know about you. I ain't taking the trash out. Okay? So if I'm a kid, I'm going to keep playing the game. But if you want to see your child actually stand up and say, okay, mom, and go do it, start by just saying their name. So that way you get their attention. They come over, they see you, and you've got their attention now. They broke away from the game, the toy, the device, whatever it was. And now they're right here. And now you can say to them, you need to go take the trash out and come back and see me. Oh, they still might give you a little bit of kickback. You still might have a little bit of problem. That might happen. But it's a lot harder at this point because your child made a decision in the heart to come and cooperate with you by coming over. And so it's a lot easier now that they're halfway there to follow through on what you told them they needed to get done right there. And now we can have some positive feedback and we start seeing resistance lower because we place the relationship higher. You start doing that and you're going to start seeing a difference. If you really want to take a deep dive into all of this, you should head over to JesusHelpMeParent.com/connected cooperation. I have a whole mini course for parents right there, both an audio version and a video version. Check it out. You can check it out again, JesusHelpMeParent.com /connected cooperation. Check it out. You're going to love it. It's going to show you how to do all that. And also, what do you do if the kid does say no? How do you handle that too? It's all in the mini course. Thanks for this question so much. I'm going to take a quick moment. Halo Scrim, thanks for joining us on TikTok over there. Andres, thanks for joining us too on TikTok. We are broadcasting right now on TikTok and YouTube at the same time. Good to see everybody joining in here. If you've got a question, I'll say it again. If you've got a question, excuse me. If you got a question and you're here with me live, go ahead and put it in the chat box. I will try to get to it tonight. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and check out the description down below on YouTube. Click the link and it'll take you to a Google form with one question. What's your question? And I'll get to that question on a future live stream, which is always on Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. Thanks so much. Good to see you here, Lynette. Let's see. Another question I have here. Excuse me. How do I help my 7-year-old learn to cooperate without it turning into a debate every time? All right. This is another great question. If you have a kid like this, where you feel like you're always debating, arguing, this kid would make a great lawyer, give me a heart, give me a thumbs up, whatever you need to give me one of those on one of these live streams to let me know, yep, that's my kid too. So if you find yourself debating and arguing with your kid when you give them simple instructions and you can't get them to cooperate without a full-blown debate, it's time we switch how we're giving instructions to kids. And what you likely are dealing with is a deeper heart issue that you can work on lots of time throughout the day. The deeper issue that you're likely dealing with your child is the issue of demandingness. Now, what's demandingness? Doesn't that sound horrible? But it's something inside of our hearts. We have a lot of things going on inside our hearts, including 2 really positive qualities we want every kid to develop: ambition and contentment. We want kids to learn how to be ambitious, to have life goals, to look to achieve things, to stand for something. We also want them to learn how to be content and grateful, to be thankful for what they've been given, to be content in all circumstances, as Jesus teaches us. We want both of those, but it's important that we help our children learn how to balance those 2 different heart qualities out. You see, though, when children become too content in life and they lack some ambition, that little balance goes this way, right? And they're way off here in contentment world, so far off that they are apathetic. These are our 35-year-olds who are in the basement with no job playing Nintendo, right? So we don't want that. We don't want that for our kid. So let's straighten that out. But you're probably not having that problem. If you're debating your kid about things, yours is going the other way. For you, your child has so much ambition that they are neglecting the relationships around the things that they're so ambitious about. They are so excited for having dessert tonight, they're forgetting to be polite about who goes first. They're so excited for the fun thing they're about to do today, they're pushing their way to the front of the line to get to do it first. They're so excited about getting to stay up a little bit later, they will argue with you to the drop to get to do what they want to do, or to stay up later. This kid has too much ambition that he's forgetting, or she's forgetting, about the relationships involved. And instead, this kid has now hit a place where we call demandingness. So how do we draw a kid back from demandingness, back towards a balanced scale of being ambitious and also being content? I have to be honest with you, it's not easy, but it is possible. Yes, we need to, 1, make sure we're giving instructions in a clear way. This came up in the last question I got here on Raw Parenting Unfiltered, and it's the same thing. We need to make sure we're crystal clear on our instructions. So if you're watching this in the replay, I'll put a link to that in another video. That way you can watch it there. And again, I'll tell you, head over to JesusHelpMeParent.com/connected cooperation, and you're going to find a whole host of tools you can use to help you with this very simple thing of giving instructions clearly so children follow through. That's important first. But we've got a kid here who's naturally debating us, who we say, gosh, this kid makes a great lawyer. He will one day. Just whining, complaining, arguing. And there's a part of us that says, I want my kid to be an independent thinker. I want my kid to have his or her own thoughts. Absolutely. But we also want our kid to know how to follow people well, how to follow their parents well, how to follow employers well, how to follow other leaders well, whether that's in our churches or in our community. We want them to learn how to both lead and follow, and balancing that out is tricky at times. And so because this child is struggling so much with the arguing and the complaining and the whining, we need to do a couple of things to teach this kid. Some of this is having some firmness wrapped around our instructions. And some of this is teaching a more appropriate way to respond when we do have a genuine need or concern or question. So let's first deal with the firmness component. Notice I'm saying firmness and not harshness. Firmness is good. We need to be firm. We all like it when people in authority over us are firm with people that are driving us nuts. Okay? People think firmness has a bad rap. It doesn't, because we all want it. When someone in your workplace is getting away with all kinds of stuff, showing up late, not filing reports, you're like, are you kidding me? I wish our boss would just deal with this guy already. We want firmness. Yes. What we don't want is harshness. Harshness is when I introduce my emotions in an inappropriate way into firmness. It's firmness plus my emotions, and that's not the right way to do firmness. Firmness is firm without having to yell, without having to scream, without having to fly off the handle or anything like that. We can be firm and emotionally connected to our child at the same time. I'm not saying that's easy. I am saying it's possible, and our kids need us to do that. And so, what does that firmness look like for this kid who's struggling with demanding this? It's going to start out with us by us cutting off the arguments. You see, this kid is really good at getting into debates. And so, when they ask to stay up later, we usually start off by just saying something as simple as, no, you really can't. It's already kind of late. And they say, yeah, I know it's a little late, but it's Friday. So, can I just stay up a little bit longer? And it really sounds innocent at that point. Many times it does. Not always, but many times. And so oftentimes we'll look back and we'll say, well, no, because remember, grandma's coming tomorrow and we have to clean up the house before she shows up. So we have to make sure we're well rested and that we can get up a little bit earlier. And your kid says, okay, but I already picked out my outfit for tomorrow and my room's already clean. So I can actually just be a help with the kitchen and the living room. So could I please just stay up for 10 more minutes? And we're still not comfortable. So we go back, and this goes back and forth kind of friendly until at some point we start getting frustrated by the fact our no is not being accepted. And then we start realizing our kid is how many years old? In this case, 7 years old. And the back of our brain starts going, and we're starting to go like, what's going on here? Why? Or maybe it's our lower brain, really. We're going, what's going on? Why am I debating with a 7-year-old? This is ridiculous. And then we lose it. And we fly off the handle in a very inappropriate way. And we start yelling at our kid, and you just need to go to bed. It's not right. It doesn't work. So how do we change that? We stop debating about the issue and we start talking about the process. When our kids leading us into debates about the issue of staying up late or whatever the thing is, and we know that this is really not an option tonight, so we have to say no, we start by saying no. And when our kid starts to whine, complain, argue, debate, or nicely debate, whatever it might be, if we really just think it's a no tonight, we need to switch. We're not going to argue about the arguments they're giving us. We're switching to the process. So we're going to say to this kid, listen, I already gave my answer. And I understand you might have some really good ideas, but tonight my answer is still going to be no. So you're going to need to listen to what I'm saying. And I'm not letting this kid drag me back over to the issues. And he said, but I just want to understand why. I would say, you know what? I would love to talk about that. Let's talk about that tomorrow. But right now, you need to get to sleep. And then if you do say that you need to talk about it tomorrow and explain it. But now the issue is not a debate anymore. If your kid wakes up the next morning and wants to understand this more and say, Mom, can we talk about what happened last night? I really want to understand why I had to go to bed early or why I had to go to bed at the time I did. That kid's not looking to argue to stay up later. They genuinely are interested. We want to honor that, have that conversation then. But in the moment, we're just talking about the process. And, we can use simple phrases like, hey, I'm kind of feeling like a woodpecker, like I'm the tree and you're the woodpecker pecking at me here. You need to accept no and head to bed. So we're going to stop debating the issue, start talking about the process. But I hear many of you saying, but BJ, I want my kid to be, independently thinking for themselves and being able to explain what they want and do. And I want that too. But right now we're out of balance in the heart and we need to start developing more contentment here. So we got to be a little firm in this situation for this time being, but we also need to teach certain skills. Here are the skills you want to teach your kid. First, you want to increase opportunities for gratitude. I was just talking with a family this week I was coaching, and they were telling me all about the gratitude jar they started. Just a simple jar in the middle of the table, and at dinner, they started talking about things they were grateful for, and they would write it down on a Post-it note or a little slip of paper and drop it in. They even went so far as to do two more things. Every person had a different color piece of paper that they would use to drop it in, and They also would just let people announce at any time of the day, not just at dinner time, things they were thankful for, drop it in the jar. That's one way to increase gratitude. You can go on Google and find all kinds of ways to increase gratitude. But we want to be modeling gratitude ourselves. If we're expecting our kids to be thankful, we need to model it because they're going to catch it from us more than they're going to learn it because we taught them to be thankful. We teach them with our actions. So we need to be thankful to model it for them. So that's one thing. Teaching gratitude is very important. Second component we need to do, though, is we need to teach our children the wise way to make an appeal. There are good ways for children and adults to appeal to an authority. So you and I, we're the parents, we're an authority in our kids' life. And so we want to teach our kids the right way to make that appeal. When they start whining, complaining, arguing, that's not the right way to do it any more than it will be the right way when they're grown up. Think about a boss that maybe you have, and think about a colleague that you probably have who goes into your boss's office and just whines about things. It never works out for that person, right? They go in whining about a situation and saying, this isn't fair. I don't want to do it this way. I just don't want to. It doesn't work out. Then you go in, or somebody else goes in, and instead of whining, complaining, they say something like, hey, boss, I understand you want us to do this thing. And I'm a little unsure about how to do it. Here's my idea that I think would make it a little bit easier for me, because if I do it the way you're saying, this is the problem I foresee. Would this be okay? Does that boss appreciate that approach? Absolutely. And so we want to teach our kids this life skill at an early age, to teach them what I would call a wise appeal, how to come to mom and dad when mom and dad say, hey, you need to get to go into bed right now. It's important you get to bed now. And maybe the kid's got 2 more math problems in their homework. Well, we want them to be able to look and say, okay, mom, okay, dad, I understand you want me to go to bed, but I just have 2 more math problems, and I really would like to get them done so I don't have to think about them all weekend long. Would it be okay if I stayed up for just 10 more minutes and got these 2 math problems done? Can you say yes to that? I know I can. Why? Because my kid is learning how to give a wise appeal. Now, they're not going to do this automatically. We're going to need to teach them this. However, for our kids who are being too demanding right now, they're going to need that firmness that says, I'm not going to get into a debate. You need to accept my answer. And we're going to then teach gratitude and also teach them the wise appeal. There's lots more you can do. We've got many videos right here on this YouTube channel. Sorry if you're watching on TikTok, but it's on the YouTube channel, all about demanding this. And so go ahead. I'll try to put some in the description down below, but you can go ahead and click on those, and you're going to get a whole deep dive on how to help our kids who struggle with this in the heart. Because guess what? The debates don't work. The arguing doesn't work. Every time you think you can out-argue them, they got another reason. Because your kid is not looking to have a rational, thought-out process discussion. They're looking to win that debate at that point because they're struggling with demanding this. They value the thing more than the person. And so in that moment, they want one of 2 outcomes. Either one, you give in because you're wiped out and tired and you're done with it. That's a win for them. Or they want what I call a mistrial. What's a mistrial? That's when you explode, you yell, and you get mad, and they have to deal with the no anyway. But inside their hearts, and let me tell you, they're not trying to get you upset. But if you blow their top, if you blow your top, they don't like that happened. They don't like how that feels. But when they're laying there in bed or whatever they got told no to, they get to stew in their hearts and go, well, no wonder I'm mad. No wonder I can't. Look at how she just yelled at me. But they didn't get told no in a respectful way. No in a respectful way is a loss for them. And so we want to find a way to teach them all these skills they need and help them learn how to accept no sometimes, because no is the answer sometimes, but also how to be grateful and content and how to make a wise appeal. You start working on some of those tools right there, and you're going to see a great heart change. Thanks so much for your question. All right, let me welcome a few people here. Marquise Johnson, thanks for joining us. Daniel Diaz, thanks for joining us too. Great to have you here. Is that Yee? Joined us as well. Great to have you here too. If you don't know, I go live every Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is our first night going live on both YouTube and on TikTok. TikTok's on my screen over here. So it's great to be on both of these platforms right now. If you have a question and you're here with me live, you can go ahead and drop it right into the comment section. I'll try to get to it. This evening, though, if you're watching me on the live stream replay, you can go ahead and put your question in the link in the description down below. That'll take you to a quick Google form with one question. And the question is, what's your question? All right. Let me look at, again, I forgot to bring my water. I got my cup in here tonight. I forgot to bring my water. I keep forgetting to bring my water in here. I almost need like a water feature right over here to help me out on these nights. All right. Here's a great question. What's the best way to respond when my child ignores me the first 3 times I ask for something? This is going to sound familiar. If you've been with me on the live stream so far, this is going to sound a little familiar. So, what do I do when my child is ignoring my requests for them to follow through on doing something? It's not as hard as you would think. You see, your kid is designed to know your action point. What's an action point? An action point is the space of time between when you give an instruction and when you act. Your kid knows how big that gap is. You know how there are times where we are getting ready to go out. Maybe you're heading out to church. You know how when you're heading out to church, the last 5 minutes, you have 35 things to get done. You know, like you got to reheat somebody's breakfast. You got to do somebody's hair. You got to find a lost Bible. You got this whole thing. So you look at your kids sitting in the living room and you say something like, hey, get your coat, get your shoes, meet me at the door. We got to go. And you go running off to go do the other things. And you're doing the other things. And guess what? Junior over here isn't moving. And so you see that and you come back and you say, hey, I said you got to get your coat, get your Bible, get your shoes, get to the door. We got to go. And you go running doing the other things. And guess what? Junior doesn't move. And so you come back a third time and say the same thing. Maybe you come back 3 or 4 times. But then all of a sudden, if nothing's changed, you oftentimes, unfortunately, and this happens to all of us, you come back and you say something like, hey, I said get to the door. We're going to church. Let's go. Right? Yeah, great way to go worship Jesus. Oh, right? This happens in real life to real families like you and me, and it's not very effective. And that's when your kid gets up and goes. What just happened here? Well, your kid was waiting for your action point. And you know that if your spouse, if you're married, does this same thing, they get up and go to the door sooner. Why? Maybe your spouse only has to tell them twice. Why? Because they know your spouse has a tighter action point. See, an action point is the difference between when you speak an instruction and when you take action, whatever that action might be. Now, I want to talk to you about taking good actions, not what I just said, yelling at kids. That's not good actions at all. If you're finding you're getting to this point where you're getting frustrated, that means your action point is too wide and you need to shrink it. So here's what we're going to do. First, when we give an instruction, we want to make sure we're in the same room with that kid rather than yelling from across the room at them. That's not going to work. If we're yelling upstairs, downstairs, out a window, most likely our kid is not going to listen to us because we're not valuing the relationship with that kid enough to get into close proximity. So we need to change that first. Then we need to make sure we have their attention. So we're going to say just their name. Get their attention. Have them put the book down, the device down, the toy down, so you have their attention. Then you're going to simply say the instruction. And you're not going to ask them, you're going to tell them in a respectful, kind way. Something as simple as, Jonathan, making up a name here. Jonathan, you need to go put this away. Or whatever the instruction might be. Notice I didn't say, could you please go? That doesn't work. It doesn't work because it's not being honest with kids. When we're saying like, hey, could you please do this? If we genuinely are asking them because it's okay if they say no, then go ahead and ask them. But most times, us parents aren't really asking. We're just trying to find a nice way to tell them they need to do something. But we're being dishonest with our words when we ask, when we really are trying to say, you need to go do this. So let's just say it. You need to, whatever it is they need to do. When you say you need to, you are actually, biblically speaking, talking right to the conscience. The Bible says your child and you both have a conscience. And the Bible even teaches that your conscience has 4 parts. One of those parts is doing what's right. And the doing what's right part is trying to develop responsibility over the course of time. And so the way you speak to the area of the conscience that wants to be responsible is you say things like you need to. And when you say that, you're putting a little weight on their heart that says, "Ooh, I need to do something." They go and do it. They get it done. They come back and check in, and you go, "Great job. You're all done." And you take that weight right off. This is how we develop responsibility over time in small bite-sized bits. So that way, when they're middle schoolers, when they're high schoolers, when they're college kids, when they're adults, they're ready for bigger amounts of responsibility, and it doesn't overwhelm them so much. So that's what we need to do. Now, if we're doing all of that and we've got a child who's ignoring us, we've got a kid who is getting off track in their decisions and their behavior. And so now we need to start doing what I would call connected correction. We need to correct this kid. We need to use our words. We need to have a dialogue here. If the kid starts getting all upset, we need to learn how to calm down so we can get back to having that dialogue. But we need to stay connected, but still correct this child. Now, if you want to learn how to do all that, head over to JesusHelpMeParent.com/connected cooperation. I've got a whole mini course for parents right there. You can check it out. There's an audio only version. If you're one of my friends who likes to listen on the go, totally can just do that. But if you're someone who likes visuals, you can stream me and all the videos that go with it. It's a simple course, but it's powerful in what it teaches. It's actually much of the content that I use when I'm coaching families in the first 2 weeks of my coaching program. So if you want to see what that's like, go to Connected Cooperation, check it out. And I'm telling you, you're going to love it. I made it super affordable, super simple, just a couple of little modules, and you'll get it done. And you'll start using it with your children and practicing. You're going to see things turn around in your family too. Start doing that, and you'll stop seeing kids ignore and start cooperating instead. Thanks for the question. I appreciate it. All right, let me check the time here. 8:43 p.m. Wednesday night. I come here every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight, first time not just being on YouTube, but also being on TikTok as well. Jenna on TikTok, thanks for joining us. If you got a question, Jenna, throw it in the chat. I'll try to get to it tonight. I am only here for another about 15 minutes. Then I've got to go because I have a family I'm working with tonight. So I'm going to have to hang up here. I've got another question here, though. Let's see here. Where is it? It just scrolled past. What is a good way to help my 10-year-old follow through on directions without constant supervision? Okay. So, do you feel like you give your kid an instruction and that they don't follow through on it unless you're constantly watching them? If that's the case, we need to start practicing how to follow instructions better. Many parents give their kids instructions and they don't always do it very effectively. They start saying, "Oh, could you please do this?" Or, things like that, where we're not being really serious in the conversation. We need to give instructions clearly. As I was saying earlier before with these other questions I've been getting asked tonight, you want to give your instructions clearly, a simple statement. You can go back if you're watching this on the replay and you're watching the whole live stream here. You can go back and watch earlier. You'll see other questions where I dealt with that. I don't want to dive into too much details now, but if you're watching this, whether this is a clip or you just missed those other ones, head over JesusHelpMeParent.com, /connected cooperation. You'll see what you need right there. Anyway, we need to start the conversation off the right way. Don't ask your kid. Tell your kid in a respectful way that they need to do something. But many parents think that their responsibility when it comes to giving instructions ends at that point, and it doesn't. That's just the start of things. When you give an instruction, you now have set an expectation, and you've given your child a small responsibility. Take out the trash, do your homework, make your bed, something like this. And you've given them a responsibility. You now have the responsibility of following up to make sure that this gets done. And so I want you to start waiting expectantly. Tell your kid, first of all, that they need to come check back in. And then wait expecting them to do that. Now, if you're telling me this is a kid who you have to constantly supervise, you're going to issue a challenge to them. You're going to start off by telling them, okay, I'm about to give you instruction. And I know a lot of times you just stop doing the instruction. So I'm going to walk through the room a couple times to see how you're doing. I'm looking to see if you stay focused and get this job done. Then give them the instruction. Tell them to go off and do it, and tell them, I'm going to go check in a couple of moments. And then at some moment later, walk through the room and see how they're doing. If they're on task, you're able to give positive feedback and say things like, hey, great job. Keep doing. I love how you put the dishes away first. Now get the silverware done. Keep it up. Don't forget to come back and check in. You might need to check in a couple times, but let that kid go off and do it and expect them to come back. And when they come back, go see what a great job they did and celebrate. If they made any mistakes, gently show them the right way. But for some of our kids, that's too much freedom at that point. They need a little bit more. We don't want to hover. We don't want to be just standing there going, no, you need to put it here. You need to do it there. That's not going to develop responsibility. But maybe if they are, let's say, putting dishes away, maybe we are in the laundry room that's just off the kitchen, folding some towels. So we can kind of be close by and offer verbal reminders or just peek around the corner and say, hey, see, you're doing a great job. Or maybe while they're putting the dishes away, we're cleaning out a shelf in the refrigerator. We're doing something else, but we're close enough by that we feel their presence. Think about it this way. I don't want to say, oh, you're your kid's boss. No, you're your kid's parent. But I'm going to use a boss analogy. When your boss, when your employer walks through the hallway by your office or your floor or wherever you're working, you might love your boss. You might really get along with them really well. But don't you just stand up a little bit straighter? Don't you just make sure to do the thing you're doing a little bit better? We all do that. That's a natural response. We want to be on our best footing when we see people who are in charge. It's just a natural response that we have. And so what we're doing here is we are folding laundry right over here, cleaning out a shelf over there, while our kids in the same room working. We're providing that same presence for our kid. What we're doing is we're putting a little loving pressure on the heart to say, hey, the parent is right here so they can see if I'm getting off task. That small amount of pressure will allow your child to be able to forge the skills they need to get the job done and stay focused. And then we want to start backing that off. We want to do this a couple of times, but then we want to try not being in the room the whole time. Maybe we're in and out of that room a bunch. And eventually we're backing our way out of this so we can tell a kid to go off and do something. And they actually just go do it. And they come back and check in. And we can go celebrate what a great job they did. Because if we're going to give them a little responsibility and put something on their heart like that, we give them a little bit of a weight on their heart that says, I got to get something done. We need to also go back, check in, and release that as well by telling them, great job. You did a great job. You're free to go. Kids love to hear you're free to go as much as you and I on Friday afternoons love to have that feeling of, oh, I finished everything I need to finish. I'm free to go. That's what we want to offer our children too. You start doing that with your kid, and suddenly they won't need constant supervision. All right. Thanks so much for that question. Looking at the time, I'm going to have to get going. Mama Alyssa, thanks for joining us here on TikTok. I'm over here on YouTube and on TikTok answering parent questions. I come here live every single Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's where I'll be. So if you want to join me back here. This is my first night on TikTok as well. So that's exciting. Otherwise, you can catch me over here on YouTube. And that'll be fun. Hope to see you back here. What are you doing for the weekend? Put in the comments. I'd love to hear what you're doing for the weekend. I am going to be camping with our family. We are campers. We're going with like 5 other families. Our family homeschools, even though I teach in public school. So we're going. We have a whole bunch of other homeschoolers who are going to be out there in the woods with us camping. We're all in tents. And it's going to be a little chilly, so we're bringing some wool blankets, but it's also going to be a little warm, so we're bringing some shorts. It's that type of a weekend where you got all kinds of weather. It's the fall. So we'll be out there. We'll be doing that. What are you doing? Go ahead and let us know. Thanks so much for joining me, whether you were there on TikTok over here or right over here on YouTube. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday for Raw Parenting Unfiltered, answering your questions. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you real soon. Bye, everyone.